Dear God, I wonder can you save me? I'm bugging out in this world that you made, G. Homicide, rapes, and robberies. When it happens in my neighborhood, police, they look for me. I'm the prime suspect in the projects. I got this effed up rep that keeps me behind the step. Always broke, so I got this attitude. In my lab, never fool my manners is crazy rude. Heroes and pizza be my lunch and dinner. I know that I'm a sinner, but God help me out, nigga. I got problems that only death can solve. High school dropout and my GED won't get me no job. My family be calling me a loser. Mom, she's a user, got me living life with no future. The only thing that keeps me striving is rhyming and bumping, grinding. Besides that, I feel like dying. Go to my peoples in the essence. I send my blessings. I know you gone, but it might be for the best. Cause life is full of stress. In the projects, you won't progress. God, F the world, it's a mess.
Shyheim Donnell Franklin, born November 14th, 1979. 1994, some argue, is the best and most important year in hip-hop history, although to me, there's no argument and more certainty. Fugees' first album, Method Man, Outcast, Jeru, Scarface putting out one of 3 5-mic albums considered hip-hop perfection, along with Illmatic and my favorite album of all time, the Notorious BIG, Ready to Die. 1994, the year in rap, can be cited on and on for the outstanding year it was, and a small piece of that year was also the debut of a 14-year-old rap prodigy that was supposed to grow into the next big thing. Even Jay-Z later in his book says he admired and looked up to Shyheim's young rap career, even though Jay-Z is 10 years his senior. The two featured on Big Daddy Kane's Show and Prove song from his album Daddy's Home, which also came out in 1994. He had songs with Big L, Method Man, and Wu-Tang Clan and was signed to a record deal with Virgin Records for an amount unheard of at the time. His debut in '94 became the number 7 album in rap and 52nd best album in the country according to Billboard's Top 200. He even began his acting career in films like Original Gangstas, Preacher's Wife, and the TV series Parenthood. Things was moving as fast as you could imagine for a 13-year-old with a major label deal, $30,000 cash in his pockets, jewelry, and no one around to tell him what to do or how late to stay out at night, with his mom heavy on drugs, his dad in prison, and his grandparents passing away when he was 11 years old. He was literally raised by the streets. Unguided and shooting at his future in the dark, he continued down the unforgiving path of life in the streets that most times only led to one of two things, dead or in jail. For Shyheim, it was a life spent in different prison cells throughout his journey, so I guess you could say lucky for him. There's no question, had Shyheim have the guidance he needed and what you'd think all kids deserve, he really could have been an entertainment superstar. He was clearly advanced, could rap and write his own lyrics, was young enough to have been around many rappers and entertainers that blew up into all-time greats far as success and infamy like Jay-Z, Biggie, Tupac, Big L, Big Daddy Kane, Wu-Tang, and many more producers, directors, and fellow actors that could have opened the doors Shyheim needed. In rap specifically, Shyheim was dope. To me, he and Nas's style wasn't all that different, and for Shyheim, he was really seeing or involved in the grown-up lyrics he rapped that made it that more special. Unfortunately, a life unguided took all that potential away and led him down an inevitable road of violence, prison, and even death. What happened to Shyheim's promising career? Let's talk about it. Salute to K Romance on IG for this request. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth Music. Let's get it. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Shyheim, aka The Rugged Child, is a rapper born and raised in Staten Island, New York that grew up in the hood and in the infant stage of the crack epidemic throughout the 80s. An only child, his mom had him when she was just 16 years old, and from there struggled with drug addiction around as much as she could be for her son. His father was locked up in prison as well, leaving the responsibility on his grandparents, who too passed away 2 years before he got his record deal. He started hanging in the streets most a day and wrote rhymes at night. He was frequently around the hip-hop scene in Staten Island and began running and even living with members of Wu-Tang, producer R&S, Big Daddy Kane, and Big L to name a few, but really, Shyheim knew everybody who was anybody at that time in rap and was expanding into acting, where he had a bright future as well. Stunt number 1, a rugged foundation. As alluded to so far, it's clear that what initially caused Shyheim's potential to fade is him not having the right foundation that could support the star he could have been. Through it all, Shyheim was still shining and attracting success at an early age. Even though he was affiliated with Wu-Tang, he actually got his record deal before they did, signing with Virgin Records in '93 and releasing his first single, On and On, that made the Billboard Top 100. This was a rap star in the making that had the talent, look, and youthful charisma it takes, all while the fact he had no real family or people that cared about him enough to tell him that the things he was doing outside of music wasn't cool and actually jeopardizing his future. But at the time, if you listened to rap or was involved in it like Shyheim, you thought everything the rappers said was really light for them, and as young as Shyheim was, he most likely looked at what the streets portrayed to be real and felt doing those things was the norm and must make him real too. As any young, impressionable mind, you see the people you look up to doing and saying they do certain things, and this makes them the person they are. Naturally, you're going to follow those same footsteps, not understanding that those guys are much older and have much more experience. Plus, they most likely don't even do the things they say they do in real life, so you go and do it for real and end up fighting real charges. His parents were gone, grandparents too, so a street kid he was, and what he built his foundation on. That street-only upbringing set the table for the unfortunate occurrences in his life that changed how things really were supposed to have been. Stunt number 2, 350 to the face. Shyheim drops his first album April 1994, aka The Rugged Child, produced entirely by R&S except the RZA track Little Rascals. When the album released, it received solid critiques toward the positive, most unable to believe the vulgar lyrics at that time came from a 14-year-old boy. Things were cool because to him, being 14 and having 30,000 on you, a gun and friends on every block, some on the verge of becoming rap stars, what more could one want? He was also wetting his feet with the acting gigs, gearing up for a promising career. He literally could have chosen music or acting and find success. What was also happening was Shyheim was being misled by what his perception was versus how life really was. When you bring food around hungry wolves, they just might eat your hand in the process of passing the food out. It was '97, and by this time, Shyheim had released a second album in '96 that was a success as well. It landed 10 on the hip-hop album charts and 63 on Billboard's 200. Success was here, and Shy felt and fed into it. One day in '97, he thought he was good and walked into a club with Moses jewelry on and attracted a hater. Hater comes up to him and demanded the money and jewelry. When he refused to give it up, a fight broke out, and in the process, Shyheim was sliced in the face and needed 350 stitches to close the wound. It made Shyheim question the existence of friends or people in his city that saw him as an opportunity and decided to rob and make him a victim that night. I think that changed Shyheim mentally, as any dramatic situation like such would do. He says none of the guys he was with even helped. He was shining, the wolves weren't, and caught him out of bounds. I also think that shattered his acting career to now have this huge scar on his face, and too young to understand that could have been the blessing that pushes things like an acting career forward. Stunt number 3, going to prison. In 2000, after releasing a third album that didn't perform so well sales-wise and on the charts, Shyheim took a plea in an armed robbery case that carried a 15-year sentence, cut down to 2 years should Shy plead guilty. He took the 2 years and began serving his sentence. Yes, by then, it had been 4 years since he released an album, but Shyheim was still just 21 years old. He says when he went to prison that first time, he put the rapper thing aside completely and focused on doing his time and protecting himself at all times in order to survive. He was released November 4th, 2003, and things kept spiraling from there. Acting career on hold, rap as well, as he looked for a new label situation, leading to him becoming hooked heavily on drugs, drinking and smoking to cope and enjoying life. He released an album in 2004 and 2009 that came and went as far as Billboard charts and critical review. When he came back, Shyheim was not the rapper everyone remembered. He stayed to himself, partied hard, and focused less and less on music. In 2014, he hit a car and killed a man because he was speeding while driving, trying to get away from some people that he said were trying to kill him. Shy limped away from the scene in fear since he was on parole and had drugs on him that could end his life as he knew it. Later, he turned himself in and confessed. It turned into him doing prison time for the next 5 years, released January 2020. Since then, he's been telling his story, but the potential he had, is safe to say, was squandered because without guidance, the streets were all he knew and let him down. All in all, Shyheim seems like a nice person trying to reform himself from an unfortunate upbringing that caused him to lose it all. He had success early, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth. Much respect. Out.